When it's too tough for them, it's just right for us.
Where would you rather be than right here, right now?
The Rockpile Report with Buffalo Bills season ticket holder Drew Gear.
The Bills make me wanna.
Well, definitely the meeting room stuff. You know, you've seen him play in the fall. You do learn a little bit more out here going against some of the same, skill players. But the meeting room is important. What do they know? Can they learn? Some guys really struggle to learn. Are they going to be able to pick up your system? And it's super important. And, what does it mean to them? And, you're asking, maybe you run into one of their teammates here. Hey, does this kid, what kind of leader is this kid? What's he do off the field? Things like that. You're always judging them. Even as they go across. This morning we did weigh-ins, and you're still watching how they present themselves, what their attitude looks like, and it's fun. The whole deal. Again, this is just one step in the process.
Welcome everybody to another edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. I am your host, Buffalo Bills season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. And in studio tonight, Paul Wanecski from HashtagSports. Boom! Paul, how are you doing?
I'm clearly excited to be here.
Guys, he's really emphatic. Hey, listen. Don't get me started on Paul. Paul and his buddy Mario, you want to see him emphatic. They have a series. It's called the Sunday Drive.
We should get one thing out of the way first. You just heard Brandon Bean on NFL Network from the Senior Bowl on the scouting process and what it means to be in the meeting room.
The scouting process. Let me. You want to know before we talk about Paul and his project and everything else, the scouting process. Okay, you're all going to be witness to Drew Gear's annual pre-draft process rant. I don't give a shit about the pre-draft process. Okay? I'm a guy who watches a lot of college football. I identify players who I'm like, oh, that guy seems like he plays in a 4-3 scheme. He looks fast. He looks like he tackles a lot. The linebackers from Iowa State. The linebacker from Iowa, Scales. This kid, Tigray Scales. There's a lot of guys who seem like they when you watch enough college football, who you kind of just pick up as, hey, that might be a good prospect for my team. That's how I scout football. This pre-draft nonsense. We measured our hands before the podcast started. Paul, where do you weigh in at?
I am 9 3/4.
I am 9 7/8. That puts me personally, Drew Gear, at the top of the draft charts as far as hand size.
Ahead of Mason Rudolph by like a far margin.
There we go! What does that mean? It means absolutely nothing. And yet people will talk about it and analyze it to death. And this is why I hate the pre-draft season.
Yeah, you're probably a second to third round pick in the podcast hosting draft.
If anybody comes up to me over the next 2 weeks and tries to bring up the idea of hand sizes to me, I'm going to put my head against their head. I'm going to find a gun and I'm going to redecorate whatever room we're in because it's absurd. All of this is nonsense. It's all horseshit. None of it matters. Jared Goff had the tiniest hands of the draft, and the Rams found a way to trade up to get him at number 1. Okay? Ultimately, if you're a good quarterback, you're a good quarterback, and if you're not, you're not. I mean, all these measurables. How tall are you? How far can you jump in a straight line? What does it have to do with football? For the love of God. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. On this podcast, we will talk about the draft process. And in it, we're going to talk about guys that I've scouted with my own 2 eyes, who I've seen over the course of a collegiate football season. We'll talk about them with some experts who know the position. I'm not going to bother talking about a Roquan Smith. Why? He's the best at the position that, yes, would we all here as Buffalo Bills fans love the best middle linebacker in this draft? We absolutely would. He will not be there at 21. And there's no way that we trade up just to get a middle linebacker. So I'm not going to waste my breath. Ultimately, my scouting process is who can we reasonably obtain, who seems like they might fit our scheme. That's it. That's it. And we will host a slew of celebrities, celebrity podcasters to come on, talk to us about those positions, break them down for everybody else who's listening. Now, Paul, you have a sickness. Paul is a guy, folks, who literally takes off of work to watch the combine.
Totally true. Yeah.
What's that about?
So I'll watch the combine real time, right? Take notes, and then I'll watch it again. And then after I'm done, and this is every position, all hours broadcast, I will watch it all twice. And then once I'm done watching it, I'll go back and watch film. And then it's just one of those things that I would love to say is something I'm proud of. But I basically locked myself in the room for about 2 weeks, and it's absolutely fact.
I mean, did you save? Because obviously now with technology, DVR and all that jazz, do you save prior combines and then rewatch them?
No.
Like in preparation for the 2018 combine, you're going to watch the 2014 combine again?
No. I remember all the nonsense things I said about players who were total failures in the NFL. I don't need to rewatch the combine to remember them. So no, that's not it at all. But yeah, no, I watched combine a bunch of times, and combine or the underwear Olympics, man, you can't put everything you see into the combine, but guys that you see that kind of jump out at you, you take a look at them, and guys that guys that maybe slip by that initial watch, I'll go back, and then after I'm done with the guys that I saw initially that really stand out, I'll go back and watch everybody else, and then watch film, and then go through and watch the combine again, and then look to see where they're letting the ball get in on them, where how does that relate to their game film, and that's all the combine is. It's just, can you replicate what happens on the field in the underwear Olympics? Or are you better in the underwear Olympics than you are on field?
My God. It's a sickness.
Yeah.
I can't do that. Now, folks, those of you who may not remember Paul from our previous podcast, he is a two-time recurring guest on our podcast.
Two-timers club, yeah.
He's made the two-timers club. Let's go. Cheers around. Now, having said that, he has a show. And I'll tell you, now, his co-host for the show, I got a problem with him just because he's overly tall and he has a man bun.
He does. Well, not anymore. Cut straight down. Drew Gear special.
Oh, my God.
He got the Drew Gear
So you
special.
mean to tell me he looks like Ari Gold except taller?
Yeah, a little bit.
Folks, Paul and his co-host Mario Granata, both from #Sports, host a show called Sunday Drive. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so basically Mario picks me up in his Kia Sportage.
Oh, wait a minute.
Wait.
Kia Sportage.
Wait.
For those of you who don't know this, Mario Granata is 6'4".
5.
Oh, 6'5". Good. He's 6'5", and he's driving a Kia Sportage.
Oh, it's hysterical.
And he used to play collegiate quarterback. So I just want you to imagine what a giant human being trying to squeeze into a Kia Sportage looks like.
Yeah, I've actually considered sitting on a phone book when filming that segment because I'm so much shorter than him sitting down.
Well, it's probably why he got a haircut in the first, that he no longer has that man bun. He's just driving a Kia Sportage. He has a man bun, that long hair. He looks like a woman. Because women drive Kia Sportages. That's a known fact.
Perhaps.
So, Paul, what is the Sunday Drive all about?
So basically we drive around in the Kia and try not to die, because it's wintertime in Buffalo right now. So we're trying not to die. But basically we just yell at each other about the Bills, and it's hysterical. So we go back and forth about anything, salary cap stuff a little bit. We'll talk about free agency. We'll talk about the front office. We'll talk about current state of the Bills, recapping anything that happened around the league. And we'll take that and we'll cut it into, 5-10 minute videos. So that way, you're not sitting there for like 4 hours watching two guys yell at each other while drinking double doubles.
Hey, I'll watch that. I got time. I'm divorced.
Guys, where can we find it, Paul?
So that is, of course, on YouTube, right? So #sports on YouTube. The website's HashtagSports.com, and that aligns with the Twitter handle, also #sports, which aligns with the Instagram handle, also #sports.
Jesus, you guys are uniform.
We do what we do.
All right, so folks, now we usually start with the news, but this week I thought we'd start with a playoff picture update. At least that's what I thought before the weekend started, okay? I tried to get ahead in writing up our podcast tonight. I failed miserably. First and foremost, Minnesota versus Philadelphia, the game I thought that would be the most exciting. What a disaster. I saw the game. I watched enough of it to know that it was 7-3. And then something happened, and then I was busy. I was caught up. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I turn around, and it's 20-7. I said, how the hell did this happen? What did I miss? And then in the third quarter, when the Vikings were going for it on fourth down because it was 31-7, you knew the game was over. I mean, I don't know a more forgettable NFC championship game.
Yeah, that was worst case scenario, man. Like, it just doesn't get any worse than that. The funny thing is that Sherman talked about why Bradford was active, and he said that Bradford was active in case the game got out of hand and they needed to come back. I don't know at what time you keep Case Keenum over Sam Bradford, but it was in the third quarter. That was the time.
You should have rolled him out there at some point. Jesus.
At that point, why not? At that point, what's the difference? What's the difference?
And then the other game of the week. You know, that one, it wasn't anything huge or there was no discrepancies or controversies or New England versus Jacksonville. First and foremost, I'd like to quote the black guy from Half Baked when I say,
"Who's this man?"
You're damn right, Tom Brady. I'm talking to you. I'm sick and tired of the New England Patriots. I've had enough. In that game, I'm sorry, but I sat there. I tried to be on my best behavior. You know, I tried to do what I could do. It wasn't enough. And I watched the New England Patriots do what they seem to do. Just every single year, they come back. They find a way to wreck everything for everybody. It's awful, like a broken record.
It didn't help that Jacksonville's offense in the second half was quite Republican and conservative.
They just literally turtled in the second half and thought they could get by based on the strength of their defense. And that's not the way you play Tom Brady. So I'm not going to, we're going to get into this in a little more detail in a second, but folks, please tune in next week for because the Patriots are going to be in the Super Bowl.
Again,
I feel it necessary to publish the Bills fans' guide to ignoring the Super Bowl.
Wait, you're serious about this?
I am absolutely serious.
I thought this was just a joke.
This is not a joke. I'm hosting a Super Bowl party, and I have no interest in watching this. So me, for myself, and for the rest of you out there who maybe don't give a fuck about watching the Patriots probably win another Super Bowl. I'm going to give you guys a laundry list of things that you can do, that you can focus on, controversial topics you can bring up in order to distract other people from the game. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you tune in next week. But as it currently stands, let's move on into the Bills news update.
Can I just add that for your Bills guide, you should include following along with Bob Ross, The Joy of Painting, and try and replicate a Bob Ross painting instead of watching the Super Bowl?
I'm not trying to replicate anything. What I'm trying to do is break new ground. Now, speaking of breaking new ground, Chris, this weekend I tried to monitor my drinking during the games.
Yeah, you came up with this brilliant idea because you gained 7 pounds. I mean, that's what, 2.5 per tit? And you came up with this idea. I'm going to stop drinking beer and just go hard liquor on the rocks. The brilliant idea.
Instead of power drinking my way beer through beer as I usually would on Sunday football, I sipped whiskey casually and just, I don't know, kind of sample some craft beers that Kyle Trimble, Dr. Kyle Trimble, friend of the show, he brought over. We did flights. I probably had a flight worth of each beer. We tried a couple. They drank the rest of them. I thought I was in good shape, and I was in a relatively good mood.
Yeah, so not a commitment.
No, and I'll be honest. Usually I would have started drinking at noon, knowing the game kicked off at 3. I started sipping whiskey at 3. Bullet Rye. Ugh, my dog is named Bullet. I love this whiskey. It's the finest thing that Kentucky has ever produced.
So you're drinking the finest whiskey Kentucky's ever produced instead of the finest moonshine North Collins has ever produced?
Oh, my God. People can't get off it. We are not Kentucky, folks. We are not the Deep South. We just look like it.
Yeah. North Collins.
My teeth just look like it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Everyone knows North Collins is white trash.
Oh, my dad is going to kick your ass. I can't wait for it. So, having said that, I sipped my whiskey. I went through the game. I tried to pace myself drinking, and I thought I was doing a good job. And then the Patriots won under the auspices of one of the most infuriating statistics I've seen in my entire life. The Jacksonville Jaguars were flagged 6 times for 98 yards, most of which either put the Pats in direct scoring position or extended their drives on 3rd down. The Patriots, with all of their blatant holding that even some of our Patriots fans and followers chimed in to say, hey, they have to do this in order to keep Brady upright. That's why they're holding. They were flagged once for 10 yards. Seeing a monstrous discrepancy in penalties is one thing. I mean, you could watch a game, maybe one team is slopperier than the other. They're just not as disciplined. They're
coached by Rex Ryan.
But the damning part about it to me, a team being flagged just one time in conference championship history in a win has happened one time in the history of the NFL. Think about how many weeks that is. How many football games it is to comprise every single conference championship game. Now guess who that other football team was?
It has to be the Patriots. It's got to be.
The motherfucking Patriots.
Yep. There it is. There it is.
Now, while whiskey may cause me to drink at a slower pace, it doesn't necessarily make me a friendlier human being. After the game, my temper might have flared a little. I don't know. I may have let off a few 4-letter F-word texts, about the Patriots and about the NFL and about the officiating process, and maybe just about my feeling about things altogether. And then afterwards, I decided that, tweeting isn't getting it off my chest enough. I better take to Periscope.
Yeah, and then you yelled at me to set everything up.
Chris.
And I had to do that in a speedy fashion.
Now, Chris, what is it like for you being my sidekick? I mean this in the best of terms. I'm Batman, you're Robin. If I yell at you, get the tripod. What goes through your head?
I mean, I just want to set it up in a quick fashion, and we usually do everything. Well, I got a new phone, so my old phone is now just exclusive use for video. So I had my old phone with me, and I pulled up Periscope, and I handed you the phone. I said, you type in what you want on the tweet/Periscope, and then I'll just press go live.
And I motherfucked everything under the sun.
I really thought you were a better influence on this.
Now he doesn't.
Than you are, Chris. I'm actually a little disappointed in you right now.
You think he's gonna? He doesn't even listen to his own fiance. He's not gonna listen to me.
Now, I took my grievances to Periscope, but I just needed to get some things off my chest, in a manner that was more constructive. And approximately 15 minutes after we released that video, in which I discussed my displeasure over the refereeing, over my, just the karmatic themes that went into the fact that Gronkowski got knocked out in that game after also concussing another player in our division. All of these things. We were informed by Twitter that our account had been issued a 12-hour temporary suspension. I'd been dragged away to Twitter prison. Think about this for a second. Put yourself in my shoes. Did I send out some curse-laden tweets, including the Patriots and the NFL? Of course. Did I make it known what a farce I thought the officiating was? Obviously. But did I outrightly defame anyone? Use racist, perverse language? Make threats of any kind? No, not by a long shot.
But when you're on Twitter and you see somebody's live and you don't click on it, you see the video moving but with no sound unless you click on it. And even for people that look at that, they already know that they look at you and they go, this guy's a bigot.
What, because of my bad teeth?
Yes.
Because I look like I'm from the South?
And North Collins.
Oh, my God. Now, obviously, I'm a level-headed guy who responds to things like that well. Right? Right, Paul?
No.
Especially after a few rocks glasses full of the finest bourbon Kentucky has to offer.
Especially not after a few rocks glasses.
To put it mildly, my response was something along the lines of Denzel Washington at the end of Training Day.
Ah, you motherfucker. You think you can do this to me? Yeah, that's right. You better walk away. Go and walk away, because I'm going to burn this motherfucker down. King Kong ain't got shit on me.
I fired back immediately with a response against the NFL and Twitter, letting them know that they can't hold this white boy down. And then this fight had only just begun. You kicked a hornet's nest, sir. Luckily, some of our favorite followers on Twitter retweeted the posts and helped us spread awareness of what had just gone on. This egregious discipline against something that really didn't deserve it. There was even a hashtag free Rockpile report flying around on Twitter for a while. Oh! So then in the comments, obviously the comments are rolling in. Someone floated the hilarious idea that considering the company I was attacking, El Riveron must be involved. Because that seems to be how the Patriots get everything done.
That came from...
That's it! I attacked the Patriots. El Riveron got involved and said, oh, fuck you, Drew Gear. Get out of here.
That came from Rockpile Report Beer Watch guesser number 261, Eric Harris. Said that Al Riveron had something to do with it.
But in all honesty, Paul, if I haven't if I haven't disparaged anyone, if I haven't really, you put me in Twitter jail for talking about the NFL and the Patriots. That's it. That's what got me there.
That's the line.
Understand that not only am I going to come back with, oh my God, with Samuel L. Jackson level ferociousness.
I want to just point out that in this video, you called me Dumbo and said I could fly. So I can't really exactly defend either of you on this.
We may have said that, but hey, listen, your ears are big. It's not a big deal. We still love you. Folks, it's one of those situations where, I felt I didn't know how to respond, but I respect all of you who follow us on Twitter, who stuck up for us, who retweeted, who commented, and who spread the knowledge of the fact that I didn't do anything wrong. I just got locked up because I disparaged the wrong person. Well, guess what? They've got a lot more coming. They have no idea what they've started. Now, on to some positive news. Chris Kruger, the show's producer, is officially a Buffalo Bills season ticket holder. Cheers around, boys. Woo!
Yep. Can't wait.
Get him up.
I will tell you, JP, the ticket rep, 2 years ago, right after I separated from my now ex-wife, and I called him about being a season ticket holder, and I was like, well, I just want section 200, row 7. And he was like, that ain't going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Now, what I'll say is that guy no longer works for the Buffalo Bills. My current ticket rep, Eli, I was talking to him and I go, oh, hey, can I have the seat next to us? It's available? Yeah, sure, I'll buy it. Sure, I'll buy it because I know my friend wants it. His response was, oh, you could have had this 2 years ago.
I didn't even know that. I'm learning that right now.
Oh, no. That's why our old ticket rep, apparently that's why he doesn't work here anymore. Because he was asleep at the wheel.
There's no way that you should be able to request a specific ticket for season tickets and get it.
Well, no.
Like the fact that you wanted the next seat over.
We didn't get it for year after year after year. And then come to find out it was available the whole time.
God.
And he just never called us.
Oh my God.
JP, wherever you are, just know that I'm going to scalp you like the movie like the movie Dances with Wolves if I ever run into you in public.
I am excited because you have different tailgates every season. I think, and you love my chicken wing dip, so I think.
Is this what you're bringing to the tailgate game?
What I'm bringing to I'm going to try to bring 8 different dips over the course of every home game.
Folks, my tailgates are legendary. The pictures are on Twitter.
There's more than 8. There's more than 8 home games. You're excluding preseason. That is unacceptable.
Yeah, I'm not going. I'll give you my ticket. You can take your kids.
No, I'll tell you this. I give away my preseason tickets, but you're also excluding postseason because we're gonna have a home postseason game next year. That's right. The Bills are doing it. I'm getting myself already in trouble. I'm already getting invested in next year's.
Do we need to go Seagrams on that? You just said
we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in a week. We'll talk about it in a week.
See, now I know we're not going to do it because now you're going to rethink your answer on this.
What I want to move on to is something football related. Now, all of you who stuck through the opening 20 minutes of this podcast, I appreciate it. Scott, who I think his last name is McClown.
It's not McClown.
McClanahan.
No one knows what it is, so I'm going to call him McClown.
McClown. We'll go with
Scott McClown dishes on free agent quarterback Kirk Cousins. Here's a little history on him for those of you who don't know who this guy is. McClown was a longtime scout who was first hired to be the VP of player personnel and GM of the 49ers. Now, he gets a lot of credit for laying the foundation of what became John Harbaugh's championship roster. Remember? He went to the Super Bowl. That's all based on Scott McClown's work. He left. He became the Seahawks senior personnel executive and is again credited with helping the team identify late-round gems that they built their championship rosters around. Russell Wilson, Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman. He was central in their drafting. He also spent 2 years as the GM of the Washington Redskins. And during his stint as GM, they had back-to-back winning seasons for the first time in years. He's also known for his struggles with alcoholism. He and I could probably sit down and tell some stories. He's a guy I'd like to grab a beer with because he sounds like he knows how to party. He's lost literally his alcoholism has cost him every single one of the jobs that I just named. His split from the Redskins was particularly, I call it acrimonious. And it seems as though the team kind of used his drinking. They knew about it, but they waited until the team did poorly and then used it as a shoehorn to shove him out the door. It's ridiculous. I'm telling you all this in an effort to kind of build a frame of reference for him. Just so that the following statements that he made, regarding Kirk Cousins as a quarterback, he was on the radio last week with Pritchard and Cecil on Sports Radio KKFN 104.3 The Fan. Just so that it makes a little bit of sense. The topic of free agent to be quarterback, Kirk Cousins, was broached, and this was his response at his talent level.
The thing about it, I've been lucky enough to be around long enough, years from standpoint. I was around Brett Favre, I've been around Russell Wilson, Matt Hasselbeck, Alex Smith. He's a good player. Is he special? I don't see special, but also we were still building the roster around him to make him special. And Jay Gruden does a great job play calling. Sean McVay did a great job play calling, put him in situations to be successful.
Now, what is that? This is a guy who has no allegiance to the quarterback or the franchise, who's just giving. Now, this is a guy who's been known for his acumen on drafting guys and talent evaluation.
Yep.
And he is giving just a flat-out knee-jerk reaction to, hey, you asked me a question, I'll give you the answer. If this guy doesn't think Kirk Cousins is special, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, it's the reason they franchise tagged him 2 years in a row, right? So you don't franchise tag a guy 2 years in a row if you intend on keeping him, right? You're playing the hot hand. That's it. You're saying as soon as this gets bad, we're out, and it's not going to cost us a thing. And that's what they've done with Kirk Cousins. And what unfortunately that has done is inflated his value hitting the free agent market, right? Because now he's hitting the market as a top 5 contract. And is he the top of the free agent market? I mean, I suppose he is, right?
He's absolutely the most valuable free agent. My thing about this is just in terms of what it means to be a quarterback. Now, Chris maintains, correct, Chris, that Derek Carr is an elite quarterback.
Very elite.
Okay? Look at what happened to the Raiders this year. This is what happens when you pay an elite quarterback, quote unquote, a lot of money.
Yep.
And then he doesn't play like an elite quarterback. Because when that happens, you don't win a lot of football games, and you don't have the cap space it takes to make up the mid-tier kind of free agents that it requires to build the championship roster.
You're not going to let Carr walk.
Nobody ever lets their, when they seem like when they think they have a winning quarterback, they never let them walk. But here's the thing that we talked about on a previous podcast, and I will find the link and I will put it in the description to tonight's show. I think it was Grantland.com, or was it The Ringer? But it was one of those two outlets who did the research and flat out said that in the free agency era, no team has won a Super Bowl with 20% of their salary cap tied up between 2 players. Well, guess what? When you pay a quarterback when you make your quarterback one of the top 5 highest paid players in football, you're asking for trouble because that guy has to be a Hall of Famer every single week, or you probably aren't winning that game.
Yep.
Because he doesn't have the talent around him to win. Drew Brees this year was one of the few exceptions because he found they had a draft that knocked it out of the park. They found rookie cornerbacks. They found rookie safeties. They found a rookie running back who set the world on fire.
Dude, I could talk so much shit about Mickey Loomis because I think he's just a terrible GM, but man, did he hit this draft.
Exactly. And that's it. You killed it.
Yep.
So looking at that, from just a cap standpoint and just a team standpoint, if you're going to take on a free agent quarterback like Kirk Cousins, you better hope he continues to play at an all-world level. Because the moment he doesn't, he's eating up so much of your team's salary cap, you can't afford to give him any secondary help. You probably can't afford a good running back like LaShawn McCoy. Or you can't afford the offensive linemen that we have, like Richie Incognito or any of the other guys. You're literally grasping at straws, banking your game every week on this quarterback.
Right.
The only franchise that's proven it works is the Patriots.
So the way that this rolls out with the Redskins, if they were to franchise tag Kirk Cousins again, what that means is because it's the 3rd time he will have been tagged, he sees a 20% increase on salary, which makes him about a $29 million player. Or 27. Or if they made 23, it's a 4.7 increase. They're about a $29 million player. That's going to soak up $29 million of their cap space. It's going to take them from having the 8th most cap space in the NFL to having like the 20th most cap space in the NFL in one player.
And that's it.
Right.
And you can't afford that if you don't know that guy is the future of your franchise. Having said that, if the guy who was around during his best seasons, who was the GM during Kirk Cousins' best years, is willing to say that guy is not the answer, it changes my own mind on how I feel about him in free agency.
Well, I think this is going to allude to a point of yours. Didn't the Bills send out a tweet about salary cap space recently? Yeah. What did that tweet say?
$38 million.
Total horseshit. Not
they said
true.
$38 million. That's not true. We have $31 million in total cap space.
Right. Yes, I agree with that because you have to figure in Calvin Benjamin, right? Because he's on an option year, which they could still drop. But yeah, that's true.
To me, what I look at is I look at the quotes of Brandon Beane. In a recent press conference, he flat out said, he was asked, how do you feel about the cap space? And he said, well, this year we're doing okay, but next year we're going to look real rosy. Those aren't the words of somebody who sounds like he's about to sign a long-term free agent for high money.
Well, and let's also take into consideration that $31 million also isn't figuring in the draft class. And that draft class is $8.2 million right now. So
that is factoring in. I did the research.
The 38 isn't
38
factoring.
isn't.
Right. Yeah, the
31.
38 isn't factoring. Yeah, it's like 31 and some
So they
change.
come in around 17th in the NFL.
Right. Yep. That would be more accurate. Right. And then if you take a look at what Kirk Cousins is going to cost you on the free agent market, there's no space. Like it's not reasonable. So let's take a look at like Derek Carr is
elite.
And comparable, I suppose, except Derek Carr is 26 and Kirk Cousins is 29. So let's look at what you're going to take to sign Kirk Cousins. A 7-year contract with 2 option years at the end. So a 5-year deal, 7 with options for a 29-year-old quarterback.
Well, that's it. He's at the end of his rope. I look at guys like Jimmy Garoppolo, who's about to sign a fat contract, but he's entering his prime.
Right.
And he's proven that he can win football games.
Sure. With no one.
With a roster that won one game before he showed
San Francisco is terrifying because they got like $120 million in cap space. They're paying nobody.
For all of my nerd followers out there, they are Sauron. There are Sauron and his army behind the Black Gate with that cap space and with that quarterback because all of a sudden that gate's going to open. They're going to unleash that team on the NFL, and in 2 years I expect them to be winning that division.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Back to winning the division.
I think that's reasonable. They need some wide receiver help. They need some help in the secondary, but you can get that stuff. That's out there. So let's talk about Kirk Cousins real quick and what that contract actually is going to look like, right? So he's going to get paid. There's no way around it. He's going to get paid. So who are his comparables, right? Matt Stafford, who unfortunately is the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, right? He is the comparable. He's 29. Their numbers across the last 2 seasons are basically identical. And the problem is Matt Stafford's making $27 million a season. So if you do the math, that's going to leave the Bills.
Inflation.
Yeah, that leaves the Bills with no money if you sign Kirk Cousins this season. So do you think right now, without making any additions to the roster, not even re-signing guys who left, do you feel the Bills would make the playoffs with Kirk Cousins as your quarterback, adding literally no other piece?
No.
I think that's fair.
No, it's fair. Now, Paul, you are a cap nerd. You're a draft nerd. You're a guy who literally takes off work to watch the Underwear Olympics.
I do, yeah.
Now, I want you to talk a little bit. What is your sickness with the pre-draft process?
So, first off, I love learning about these little tiny colleges that I couldn't even tell you what state they're in, right? So that's fun to me. But the whole draft process itself, I don't want to know just about first rounders. I want to be watching the draft in the 4th and 5th round saying, man, they really missed on this guy. That's fun for me, right? And then we get to go out and do, cause you did the Rock Sports coverage last year for the draft. You did rounds 2, 3, and 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
and hated every one of those picks.
I hated all of them, and they all panned out.
Except for Zay Jones.
That's
he played through a shoulder injury.
50% of the balls thrown at him were uncatchable.
That's a fair counterpoint. That's a fair counterpoint. So that's what I love, man. I love watching the draft and saying in the 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds, like, man, that's a great pick for that organization. I just love being on the inside of all those organizations. That's why I get into that stuff, man. It's like nerdgasm. It's like, you guys call it the off season. It's nerdgasm season.
You see, folks, I just can't in my heart of hearts justify a guy who, you just spoke about his comparables, Paul. You compared him to Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford is a quarterback who still to this point he's the highest paid player in football and does not have a playoff victory. That's a problem for me.
That's a great point.
That's a problem.
I was gonna say we should set an over under on the Kirk Cousins contract for Seagrams.
Oh my God! You know what? We're gonna get into that. Before free agency? You and I can we can make that happen. What I'm afraid of, folks, is jeopardizing the Bills' salary cap. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight. That's why I have Paul in studio. Paul, before we have a meaningful conversation about what the Bills are going to do this offseason, considering the draft before free agency, it's worth having a discussion, a real intense discussion about the team's salary cap situation. and kind of taking a look at exactly how the hell we ended up here. Now, I want everyone out there to know that all of the figures I have come courtesy of Spotrac.com.
Yeah, I'm aligned with you, so I'll use the same.
Thank you. I mean, I feel like it's the most accurate tool out there for measuring because they think of things. I mean, BuffaloBills.com just the other day put out a thing about how they had $38 million in cap space.
Total nonsense.
False. Absolutely erroneous.
Total nonsense.
You're not
true.
taking into account Kelvin Benjamin's contract or the rookie draft pool. Mm-hmm. You're in trouble if that's what you believe. The Bills. Right. Okay. At the end of last season, the Buffalo Bills were. This is what I want to point out. We're going to start this in segments. Let me slow down for a second. I want to talk about where we came from, where we are now, and what I think is going to happen going forward. So let's start with the 2016 and 2017 offseason. Okay? Because that's the precursor to all of this. At the end of last season, the Buffalo Bills were a mess. We missed the playoffs. We had just fired our head coach. We still had questions about whether the current quarterback would be with the team within a couple weeks of the season ending. And we finished the season with just $5 million in cap space left over to roll into the next season. Which, I mean, you think about the unrestricted free agents that were going into next season. Stephon Gilmore. And then Sammy Watkins and Mike Gillislee, who needed decisions made on their options.
Yeah.
Now, there's a reason that we ended up in this position. Okay, this whole salary cap discussion starts years before Bean and before McDermott ever show up here. The drafts by Buddy Nix and Doug Whaley over the course of their tenures were largely ineffective. I'm going to read you a list of names, Paul. E.J. Manuel, Marquise Goodwin, Duke Williams, Cyrus Kwanjo, Ross Cockrell.
I'd take that one back.
Yeah,
I'd take that one back.
Yeah.
I'd take that one back.
John Miller, Reggie Ragland, Shaq Lawson, Adolphus Washington, Cardale Jones. All of these players were selected in the top 4 rounds. And regardless of whether they're still on the roster or not, they were expected to make an impact here in Buffalo. They didn't. They just didn't. And in the case of the guys still on the roster as of today, it hasn't materialized.
There's no promises there.
There's no promise from them. When this happens, you're forced to rely on free agency. That's how you have to fill your roster if your draft picks underwhelm and underperform. So it's not hard to fathom why during Doug Whaley's tenure as Buffalo Bills GM, we were bottom 3 in the NFL in terms of percentage of the total 53-man roster that was comprised of draft picks versus free agents. As anybody who understands football economics might know, it's hard to build sustained success when you're relying on high-priced or even if the price tag isn't high overall, overinflated values for guys in free agency. That's what you run into.
Yeah.
When you draft guys, their cost is controlled. Mm-hmm. You know what you're paying for them, and if they outplay it, good. Look at the Steelers with Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
I would have brought up Seattle because they won a Super Bowl.
Well, yeah. And Seattle's an interesting case because Seattle carried over cap space for years because the NFL allows you to roll over cap space with no real cap on it.
Yes.
So whatever money you don't use in one year, you can use in the next. And Seattle was really interesting because when they hit on all those draft picks, they also had like $50 million in salary cap rollover space. Yep. And when those draft picks started to come up for contracts, guess what? They could afford to re-sign him. Mm-hmm. And it didn't cost them anything, right?
Yep.
And that's what happened. And that's where that cycle's over now, right? So you look at Seattle now, they're a freaking financial disaster, but that's what happens, right? They had rolled over unused salary cap space for years prior to hitting on all those mid-round draft picks that were all linked to Scott McGloin.
Meanwhile, the Buffalo Bills did the exact opposite. We sucked at all of our draft picks, so we used free agents to plug every hole we could. Mm-hmm. Because Doug Whaley was so blinded by this idea of I have to make the playoffs. Well, guess what? You failed to draft well, and because you failed to draft well, you had to rely on these guys, which screwed us in the salary cap realm. It's hard to find sustained success on those 1, 2, 3-year deals where you're paying more than fair market value for a player's services. Now, looking back, that feels like a distant memory. where we stand today, the Bills are fresh off a playoff berth. They've got a roster that's young in a bunch of places. They have a total of $31 million in estimated cap space, and that includes Kelvin Benjamin's fifth-year option at $8.3 million.
Yep, that's right.
We are 17th most in the NFL, with options to get more cap space if we choose. Mm-hmm. Now, we're also saddled with $18 million in dead cap, the most in the NFL.
And from who?
Exactly.
14 million from getting Marcel Darius off this team from a contract extension that he had signed 2 seasons ago.
I mean, I'm telling you, there was only 2 other teams that were even close, and 29 teams in the NFL that were more than $10 million under the Bills in dead cap space. Yep. That's damning. That's damning. That's an indictment of a GM who didn't do his job. Mm-hmm. You did a poor. Somebody new came in and looked at what you built and said, "This is horseshit." Mm-hmm. And started to erase it piece by piece.
You only have 2 options as a GM. You either build upon what you have or you tear it down, and Bean decided to tear everything down. And somehow we made the playoffs.
Tear it down. That's an understatement. I mean, let's think about it. Bean's moves and the effect on just what we have coming into this season. This offseason was probably one of the most dramatic that we've seen in a long, long time here in Buffalo.
And you bring up a great point, because we talked about this at on the broadcast back when we hired Rex Ryan his first year at HashtagSports.com, was the lack of roster moves that you saw when Rex Ryan took over. Normally we see a new head coach come in, it is anarchy on the roster. Like, guys are getting swiped out, and it's just... But you didn't see that with Rex Ryan. For some reason, he kept the staff that was there, kept from a roster perspective. And the roster just didn't really move that much. And then you look at now, and what'd you have? 8 guys on the roster from last year that saw significant time on the field?
We saw the entire secondary replaced.
Yeah.
Replaced. Point blank and period. And that's the thing. Dynamic shifts. Now, you take a look at some of the moves that were made. First, they weren't all huge. Okay, it started off small. You look at what happened in free agency. Mike Gillislee was a solid backup behind LaShawn McCoy in 2016. Mm-hmm. He had more than 5 yards per carry and was solid after contact. Instead of signing him to an extension, and fans lost their minds over the fact that we didn't give him a second-round tender.
Yeah.
We tendered him at the original round, which means he's worth a 5th-round draft pick in exchange.
Yep.
The Patriots went on to sign him to a 2-year, $6 million contract, which any Bills fan out there can agree was far more than we would have paid him.
Absolutely.
And received in return a 5th-round draft pick in this year's draft.
Right.
Which was, I think, part of the trade to go up and get Deion Dawkins. I think that was the 5th that we gave up.
I believe that to be true, yes.
So, in my mind, here's what I see. This is and I'm not going to say that Doug Whaley was terrible in all facets of the game. He made some solid moves. The trade for Jerry Hughes he was good with trades. Mm-hmm. And this seemed to be almost, think about it. He took a guy in Mike Gillislee who was a street free agent, tendered him at the original level, and then converted a street free agent into a future draft pick that they then used for trade capital to move up and get a player they wanted. In my mind, that's a savvy move that I'm willing to give him credit for.
Sure.
I think this was completely intentional. Completely intentional. Mm-hmm. Then you've got Stephon Gilmore. The Pats weren't done raiding our cupboard because they came back. They double dipped. They made the big splash signing of Stephon Gilmore to a 5-year, $65 million contract, which is curious considering that they have their own player in a contract year, the best cornerback on their team, Malcolm Butler, and they don't sign him to a deal. Instead, they spend their money on Stephon Gilmore, who went on to spend the 2017 season being beat like a drum.
Yeah, it's so much to the fact that Blake Bortles picked to throw against him with the game on the line.
With the game on the line.
And honestly, that play will define that is the best play of his career to this point.
To this point.
And honestly,
he's never made a more meaningful play.
It wasn't that bad a throw. It was on point. But the difference between a good quarterback and a league average quarterback is a good quarterback throws the ball over the corner to where the wide receiver is growing. Bortles rocketed that ball and tried to throw it through Gilmore, which admittedly most of the league had been able to throw through Gilmore for most of the season, so probably not a bad idea. But the truth is that play right now is the pinnacle of Gilmore's career. He might not get a better play.
When you look at what Gilmore's accomplished this season, when you look back at the money that he cost,
there
was no way the Bills were ever going to sign that kind of a contract.
No way.
They were smart to let him go. And if you ask a lot of Pats fans, like our Christian Simonelli flat out asked for a refund.
Yeah, as well as he should.
And then one of our followers, Snowy, from Australia, actually, who's a Patriots fan from Australia, flat out, he tweeted out, he goes, it's Stephon Gilmore. I go, congratulations. He finally earned a paycheck. He finally did it. Again, Whaley showed restraint and didn't attempt to resign Gilmore, realizing that he was going to cost way more than he would produce on the field.
Right.
Now, Brandon Beane arrived in Buffalo shortly after those moves were made. Mm-hmm. The draft came and went. He took over for Whaley almost immediately, released all of the scouts, let everybody go. He cleaned house. Okay? And he got to work almost immediately analyzing the roster and seeing what could be done to try and shake things up. Because when you're a team who hasn't made the playoffs in 17 years, and you had... Okay, we've spent high draft. We've traded up for wide receivers. We've gone out in free agency and spent money.
Yep.
Nothing has worked.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the, like Chris said, you've got two choices. You can build on it, or you can tear it down to the studs. And when I say that he tore it down to the studs, I mean he came in with not just like a hammer and maybe a construction crew. He came in with a bulldozer.
Yeah,
Brandon Beane did.
Yep. He removed everything that wasn't foundational.
He scraped every bit of Doug Whaley off of this football team.
Pretty much.
Starting with Sammy Watkins.
Yep.
Well, except for Reed.
Except for Reed Ferguson. Thank God for him. In the Bills' first preseason game, Sammy Watkins got targeted multiple times in the first 5 drives.
Can I point out something? Fun fact about that game. So I was at that game, right? My son played at halftime. A good time. Scored a touchdown. We're very thrilled.
There you go.
And we leave the game, and I looked at him as we left the game, and I go, that's the last game you'll ever see Sammy Watkins wear a Bills uniform. I'm glad you got a chance to meet him, because he got to meet him on the sidelines.
That's cool.
How old is your kid?
He's 10 then. He's 11 now.
Oh, did he cry?
What? No, he didn't.
I would have figured you would have made him cry. That was the last time you see Watkins in a Bills jersey.
No, see, because he's not me, Chris. He's not me as a father.
It was so blatant that they were just trying to force the ball to Sammy. I was like, the only reason that you're trying to force the ball to a guy with injury history in the preseason
to prove that he's healthy.
You're trying to get rid of him.
He was immediately traded the following afternoon. Yeah. Fans were livid. But the move had caveats. A second-round pick in 2018 and a starting cornerback in E.J. Gaines. I mean, it was obvious from the team's decision-making, not picking up his 5th-year option, that he was not in their long-term plans.
Yeah, it would have been tough to trade him with that 5th-year option because it was so expensive. Watkins being a top 10 pick at a skill position, it's kind of like drafting a quarterback and then trying to trade him in that last year.
Yep.
That contract is massive. So, like, what you see right now, who's a quarterback that's up for a 5th-year option? Right now,
not Bridgewater.
No, Bortles actually.
Bortles
is up. Bortles' contract, because of the cycle, is going to be $20 million. Do you want to pay Blake Bortles $20 million?
Absolutely not. He's a quarterback that the Bills had held to 1 touchdown. I'll see you in hell.
But that's the point. Good luck trading that, right? Same thing with Sammy Watkins. You pick up that 5th-year option. Yes, the team could decline it, but if Sammy Watkins gets hurt, you're on the hook for that contract. And what is most likely to happen? Sammy Watkins gets hurt. So the best thing for the Bills to do was to decline the option because of the injury history.
The moment they declined it, I knew he wasn't going to be on the roster. The fact is, we got the highest draft compensation in return for a wide receiver in trade that any team in the last decade has received. Mm-hmm. And we got a starting cornerback who did amazing things for our defense this year. Now, a lot of fans panned the move, but what it did was it freed us up from having to pay his 2018 salary.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We're not stuck with his 5th-year option this year.
Nope.
It freed up a ton of cap room. Okay? It was the right move to make. We also have a extra second-round draft pick this year. How do you argue with that? You can't. Then you look at Ron Darby. Early accounts were that the implementation of a zone-heavy scheme Darby was struggling to pick it up. And when you go back to college, Darby was always a man cover guy.
Yeah, FSU is always man. So if you're looking for a zone cover, you do not draft anybody from FSU. That is on the books. It's been like that for 15 years.
It just didn't fit with what he was good at.
Yeah,
so
true.
When the early accounts were that he just wasn't fitting in. And he wasn't trying to fit in. He was making it known that he wasn't happy with the transition to his own scheme. So, what is Bean? Well, what is? I want to call him McBean. I like this because
McBean, McDermott, Bean,
kind of puts it together.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
McBean. What is it that they do with players who don't want to buy in? Well, guess what? You can. Here's the door. But we had a wide receiver depth chart that was lacking a veteran presence. And we had just lost Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
So they traded away Darby for a 2018 third-round pick and wide receiver Jordan Matthews. The end result is a quality draft pick, again, in a future draft, and a useful player brought back in return with only a few $100,000 difference in cap space.
Yeah, so
that's the thing that's important to me in this discussion. Matthews was set to be a UFA. So you're not tied to him long term, and you're really only increasing your cap's expenditure by a couple $100,000.
Right. Yep. And Jordan Matthews, funny story about Jordan Matthews. I was telling everybody that could listen back in that draft when the Bills traded up for Sammy Watkins. Bills trade up, and I was ecstatic because I thought that meant Khalil Mack. Right, I was like, the only player on the board that the Bills would trade up for is Khalil Mack. It's on YouTube. I was screaming that they drafted Khalil Mack. I made a fool of myself. Absolutely true. It's all on YouTube. But they ended up drafting Sammy Watkins, which I didn't understand. Because with where the Bills were, they could have stayed pat, right? Not given up the next year's first-round pick and drafted Taylor Lewan at left tackle, right? Yep. We could have moved over to right tackle. You're fine, right? So you got a tackle. You got bookends. You're good. And then draft Jordan Matthews in the second. Going into the draft, I said the two guys I want leaving this draft are Taylor Lewan and Jordan Matthews. So imagine my excitement and how thrilled I was once the Bills traded Darby for Jordan Matthews. Because this is a guy I wanted in the Bills uniform for the last 3 seasons. And unfortunately comes in, I go to training camp.
The day you were there, he gets injured.
The day he's there, he cracks his sternum, like chips his sternum. I was like, what the fuck? Of course he does. Of course he does.
All I know is that every move that was made with an eye towards the future. I mean, look at the subsequent moves. After that, because once they'd shocked the fan base in one afternoon, they figured, well, we've already softened them up now. Let's just roll in the rest of these moves. Reggie Ragland, the former second-round pick, my boy, was traded to the Chiefs for a 2019 fourth-round pick. He struggled to regain his athleticism after that knee tear. He just really didn't have that athleticism back. No. And he wasn't fast enough, even healthy, I think, to play a significant role in a 4-3 scheme.
Yeah, he was drafted to fit a Rex Ryan system. Yep. And when you remove that Rex Ryan system, he wasn't a fit anymore.
And look at he went to another 3-4 defense.
Exactly.
And he did well enough to see some playing time.
Right.
Now, his salary comes up. Well, here's the thing about the move. His salary comes off the books completely, which frees up just under $1 million in salary every year for the next 2 years. That's, again, people don't realize, but all of these moves have a ripple effect. Mm-hmm. You wonder how we all of a sudden got to $31 million when for the last 2 years we've been eating peanuts. Okay? These are the minor moves in free agency that it takes, and not even free agency, but just massaging the cap in your roster. You have to be smart about it. Reggie Ragland was a guy who was easily expendable, who saved $1 million a year.
There's a guy I used to work with. He told me first and second round picks should be able to adapt in any system, offense or defense.
This guy is an ass. This guy is one of the best. I can't wait to have him on the show just so I can not only berate him, but then afterwards headbutt him. Running back Jonathan Williams, 5th round pick of Doug Whaley's. Williams was released in favor of Mike Tolbert near the end of camp.
Yep.
No one flat out stated it, but McDermott's comments about backups needing versatility. That's the thing that brought his career here in Buffalo to an end.
Yep.
Jonathan Williams refused to play special teams.
Yep.
Mike Tolbert was willing to go out there and play whatever you asked him to play.
Yeah,
And
because you
those
ripped
are
a fumble from Reed.
Those are the guys that McDermott and Bean want on this roster.
Absolutely.
Guys who, say, hey, listen, I'm not too good to play special teams.
You can bag
I'll go
on,
out there and do it.
You can bag on Mike Tolbert all you want, but standing there at training camp and watching him from 5 feet away, he is one of the most athletic guys I saw on the Bills field. Period. The end. Didn't matter what you did for a guy. He's not a big guy, but he's a heavy guy. Man, he can move.
I'll tell you this.
He's so nimble.
That move freed up another $500,000 a year for
That's
the
what I
Buffalo
mean.
Bills.
Yeah.
Kevon Seymour. Seymour was having a decent preseason in the new scheme, and last year was kind of a sleeper. Like, no one thought Seymour would be good, but Pro Football Focus had a lot of love for him.
Yep.
However, McDermott felt that he could do more with the veterans on the roster, and Bean identified a lack of speed in our return game. So, early season trade, former draft steal Kevon Seymour goes to the Panthers for specialist Kalen Clay and a 7th-round draft pick in 2018.
Now, mind you, we don't keep Kalen Clay. Well, we got the 7th.
But we got
who
the
cares?
7th, which eventually became part of a trade
Yep.
that became starting wide, our de facto number 1 wide receiver,
Calvin Benjamin. Yep. Which is it's funny that Clay was paramount at the end of the season. I mean, Clay had a touchdown in his hands for Carolina.
Yep. Whoop.
Right through.
Dropped
Right
out because he's not a receiver.
No.
And as soon as the Bills realized that, they were like, "Okay, you're done. You're cut.
It's time.
We'd rather play Brandon Tate." Mm-hmm. So these were all of these little moves that no one paid attention to that really affected the Bills' salary cap. Because think about this: they're converting current contracts into future draft capital. Yes, it will cost you out of the rookie draft pool, but what do we know about rookie draft picks? They're cost controlled for multiple years. Mm-hmm. Yep. All of this is just more darts to throw at a board, hoping you hit a bullseye.
Right.
This is it's a great way when you look at a team that has been losing for so long. When you tear it down to the studs, this is the first GM, Chris. You've been watching for how long? Paul, you've been watching for how long? When's the last time a GM came in and not even, like I said, took a scalpel to a roster, but took a bulldozer to it and peeled everything that a former GM built off the roster except for a few cornerstone pieces?
Probably the 80s. That's my guess.
Can I share when I was done with Doug Whaley? I was at the Bills game. I was sitting up in the nosebleeds, and it was a preseason game, and this is when I was done. I was like, I'm done with this guy. I can't do it anymore. It was my second season of watching E.J. Manuel, Jeff Toole, and Dennis Dixon in a preseason game. It was my second season in a row of seeing that because they made zero quarterback moves. And I was like, nope, I'm done. This is the end of it for me. I'm done. I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. That was it. That was the moment that I gave up on Doug Whaley. Was sitting all the way up in the nosebleeds watching E.J. Manuel start for an entire half of a preseason football game against the Buccaneers because the team had generated like a 54 yards on offense. It was horrible. It was atrocious.
Now, all of those moves, though, don't trump the crown jewel of fucking moves by Brandon Bean. Mind you, I hated him for it the moment he made it. And then once I had some time to drink a few beers, calm down, I went through my normal process.
You got your thinking juice on?
Got my thinking juice going, and I really just sat back and reflected. In the biggest move from a cap perspective, Marcel Darius was traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who we eventually lost to in the playoffs, for a 5th-round pick in 2018.
Yep.
It was devastating to me personally because he's been my I'm an Alabama fan. Everyone who follows the podcast knows it. I watched this guy's entire career. Yep. I did a cartwheel in a bar full of people. I did a cartwheel when we drafted Marcel Darius.
Do you have that on tape, Chris?
No, I don't.
And through his first couple years, he was a stud. He was a monster for our defensive line.
Yep. And young. He came out of college young.
His off-the-field issues have been well documented. And behind the scenes, it's been reported that Darius was often late or just altogether absent from treatment, from team meetings. He did whatever the fuck he wanted to.
He wore a captain's hat.
That's
everywhere.
Yeah,
we wore a boat captain's hat everywhere. This tells you what you need to know about this guy.
Darius walks into a room and goes, I'm the captain now.
I still love Marcel Darius, and I'll have a lot of love for him no matter where he plays. But for his time being a Buffalo Bill, he played until the moment he got that contract.
Absolutely.
And then you watched him quit. And the thing that I noticed from him was that in the run-up to the draft, and just because I agonize over this guy because he was, I don't want to say, because I'm too old. I'm older than he is, so I can't say that he was my hero. But he was a player that I really had a lot of respect for. One of the things I remember him saying was that, when they talked about goals, what do you want to accomplish in the NFL? What's your end goal playing football? His answer wasn't, I want to win titles. I want to be a champion. I want to be the best there ever was. It was, I want to make money that I can get my family back together. Because as a kid, his family was split up when his mother died. And he was lucky enough to go move in with his high school football coach. But the rest of his family got put into the system and scattered. And he wanted nothing more than to have enough money to buy a house big enough to house his entire family and get what he didn't get from his childhood. That ability to grow up with your siblings. That's a noble cause. But at the same time, does that breed a guy who you should spend $119 million on? Because I'll tell you, the moment he got that money in his pocket, he stopped playing.
He was done. Yeah, and he played nearly never for the Bills this season, right?
No.
And even after being traded to the Jaguars, he totaled 17 total games. Only accounted for 38.4% of snaps.
He was a rotational player.
He was a rotational player.
This is it. This is it. When you're building a culture of accountability, and I'll tell you, everyone says, "Oh, we traded Darius, and the run defense went to shit, and that's why the Bills are garbage, and that's why we're going to lose every game for the rest of the season." All of you listening to this, who maybe called WGR and bitched and complained and cried about how, "Oh, Darius, that's the move that's going to sink us." I remember that. Okay? Don't act like you didn't do it. You panicked. Okay? We hit a rough spot without one of the guys who was supposed to be the most talented interior player on our defensive line. But guess what? McDermott is building something here. It's a culture of accountability. It's addition by subtraction. When you look at look at his on-field presence. He's being late to meetings. He's being openly disrespectful. He got sent home from a preseason game.
But all of that was fine and dandy under Rex Ryan.
He has no respect for the authority that's here.
It was.
And the type of team the type of mentality it takes to breed winners. Mm-hmm. And McDermott wasn't going to stand for it. Bean saw an opportunity and he offloaded what was a hefty contract. I mean, look at this. Darius, now the Jaguars are on the hook for the rest of his cap hits, which are $10 million, $11 million, and then 2 years of $14 million.
Yeah, the way that contract
for a rotational player.
Yeah, that contract was really, really backloaded. But remember, the Jags could walk away from him at any moment because when you make a trade, the team that owns the player originally has to suck up all the signing bonus money.
Yep.
And that's what the Bills are on the hook for right now. $14.2 million in 2018 is going to be spent on Marcel Darius because of bonus money.
Yep.
But the Jags can walk away. Right. Any roster bonus, the Jags have to own that in future years. But if they wanted to cut him right now, it would cost them minimal money. Minimal.
And the sad thing is, even with that cut, we still cleared $4 million with the move.
Absolutely. Yep, sure did.
It's a smart move by a savvy GM who sees a problem, and I'm sorry to say it, but he made Marcel Darius an example. Mm-hmm. He said, look, if you don't want to be here, don't be here. We will make you gone. We'll get almost nothing in compensation for it, but we're better off without you. Mm-hmm. Because we're not going to pay your hefty salary if you're not going to show up on game day. You're not going to show up Monday through Friday. And that's what McDermott preaches. Preparation and responsibility. If you're not going to be that guy, McDermott has no use for you.
Right. Well, and this team also has no fear of replacing players. Look at the players that they brought in and how successful they were, right? You have Micah Hyde, you have Jordan Poyer. These guys just fit. Right? So the team has had great success with plug and play opportunities.
Yep.
This is their first real draft, but this draft is loaded with back end defensive line talent. So if you're looking for defensive line, this is a good draft for you. You have Arden Key from LSU. You've got Maurice Hurst from Michigan. You got Sam Hubbard from Ohio State.
Sean Hand.
You got
Alabama.
Vita V from Washington. You got Marcus Davenport from UTSA. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys who are going to fit in a lot of systems. And the Bills are in a good position at 21 and 22 currently that they might have the top defensive line pick from those interior guys in the first round, because that's where you see a lot of those defensive tackles go. If there's not the super elite, which there aren't super elite in this draft, the quarterbacks are diluting the top end of that. Yeah, you're going to have a really great choice of players at that position at 22.
Well, so now we're talking about people so roles that have to be filled.
Yep.
Gaps that need to be filled in this roster coming the 2018-2019 season. Let's talk about some of the free agents who no longer count against our cap. First and foremost, Kyle Williams. Now, he could return, but it would require a sizable pay cut. Last year, he counted $8 million against our cap, but his production clearly dipped. I mean, I think he had, 4 sacks and a handful of tackles. But he was the elder statesman in the locker room.
Sure was. Yeah.
So, if he wanted to come back, to me, personally, I think it's $2 to $3 million a year. Maximum. You can't spend more than that on a guy who's a rotational player at this point in his career. He was a starter for us this year, but he shouldn't be.
He shouldn't have been.
He shouldn't be.
So here's what Williams does, right? So, and it's actually kind of cool. So Kyle Williams this is the 4th coach that has given him this ability, which is terrifying to talk about. But Kyle Williams called the blitz schemes on third downs. I don't know if you knew that.
I don't know that.
Yeah, so Kyle Williams was responsible for calling blitz schemes and assignments on third down. That was his job, right? And he's this is the 4th coach that's given him the ability to do so. That's how good he is at what he does. So even as a rotational player, as a third down, second and third down, he has value.
Some elevated value.
That sounds like Ben Roethlisberger making checks at the line when it's 4th and...
Oh, no, he's not allowed to do that.
He's not allowed to do that. So I don't think
my man.
I don't think your dollar figure on Kyle Williams is off. However, this is a situation where I think he's going to get paid for a little bit more of what he's accomplished and what he means to the team. Okay. So he was an $8.3 million cap hit. That's because he had $6.3 in base salary. His base salary cannot exceed $4 million. If it exceeds $4 million, you got timeout on that. You can give him a roster bonus, I suppose, but his cap hit can't be higher than 5.5.
Nope.
If you're paying 5.5, then you're way overpaying for the number of snaps he's going to give you.
I mean, his veteran presence is great, and he's a great story, and I'm glad we made the playoffs in what might be his last season.
Sure.
If he decides to keep playing and he wants to play here, that's fine, but understand that you're going to do it in a rotational basis, and you can't make top dollar. Now, Preston Brown, he could also be a guy who returns to the team. But if you look around the NFL at comparable contracts, I'm looking at what I wrote here, and I'm not even believing it myself. I mean, you look at the guy from the Browns, Kirksey. Okay? Kirksey from the Browns. Nobody knows who the fuck this guy is. Why? Because he's not very good. But he just signed a free agent deal worth $6 to $6.5 million a year.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, Preston Brown led the NFL in tackles. He is going to get paid by someone.
Yeah, big time.
But he underwhelms in coverage.
Sure.
He's not the most explosive athlete.
No.
He is essentially Paul Posluszny. I'd almost say Paul Posluszny 2.0. In which case, I cannot justify paying you $6.5 million a year. Not in a draft that's deep at linebacker.
Yeah, so here's the thing about Preston Brown that's so enticing to teams is that on average across his career he's played like 98% of snaps. So he just doesn't miss time, right? And also, don't forget, Preston Brown can fit in a 3-4 or a 4-3 because he played in the middle of both. So he is a really valuable free agent commodity, which makes him a very expensive free agent commodity. Now, we know inside linebackers don't really make a lot of money in the NFL. They don't often get drafted high. Reuben Foster. Sorry. But the truth is...
A2 Wanecski?
Yeah.
A2?
Oh, big time. The truth is, though, he's going to be too expensive for the Bills. There's just no way. Because he could fit in a 3-4 or 4-3. Now, is he best in a 3-4? He is, because he's not great in coverage. He needs that help from the outside linebackers. But he's a $10 million player. There's no other way to cut it. He's going to get paid between 8 and 11, and that's really conservative. Truth is, he's a $10 million player. No, he's a $10 million player.
Oh, get him as far away from my team as possible.
You're going to put him up there.
Out of here.
You're going to put him up there with Kuechly. You're going to put him up there with...
I'm not. I'll never put it.
from a salary.
You can't use Kuechly's name in the same sentence as Preston Brown.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Well, and the truth is that
I want to throw ice at you right now.
Luke Kuechly
I want to spray
and Bobby
this beer all
Wagner
over you.
have played less snaps than Preston Brown.
Bobby Wagner
is, to me, the most important player in that Seattle defense. That guy is as stud gets.
Preston Brown.
But Preston Brown is going to be a $10
couldn't
million
hold
player.
either one of their pockets.
I agree.
Okay, that's all I'm going to say. He couldn't hold either one of their pockets in prison. Moving on. Another linebacker that I have no love for. Ramon Humber.
Get him out of here.
Ramon Humber is likely gone.
Yeah, well, Matt Milano took over for him
Exactly.
in the season.
When you're now, here's what it is, though. He started the season like a house of fire. He had the starting job, and he did very well. But as the season wore on, so did he. And he started to wear down. Matt Milano proved he's a better pass coverage linebacker.
Yep.
And given the amount of nickel that we have to play, given today's NFL, you can't have a linebacker like Humber making anything considerable on your roster.
Yep,
Humber is gone. He's going to move on to greener pastures. Maybe he'll just disappear off the face of the earth and no one will ever hear from him. One day he'll show up on this podcast where he can apologize to me for all the terrible things that he's done while being a part of my franchise.
Well, I remember sitting here in the studio with you informing me that Ramon Humber...
Wait, it's a kitchen.
Okay, listen. All right.
It's a studio. It's a kitchen.
All right.
It's a kitchen.
All right, so I'm sitting here drinking beer with you, listening to your trials and tribulations of your despise of Ramon Humber. And you told me that Ramon Humber was not going to be the starting outside linebacker for the Bills because there was no way that was going to happen. And then the Bills draft 2 outside linebackers. And I think, all right, Drew's off the hook. We're good. You got Tanner Vallejo. You got Matt Milano. No way Ramon Humber starts. Ramon Humber starts. Not only starts, but starts like more than half the season.
Well, because McDermott has clearly outlined that he likes production. He appreciates production, but he also likes veterans. He likes guys who have done it before, especially in his first go round. Mm-hmm. What do you want from him? Yeah. Why do you think Leonard Johnson's here? That's the next name on my list. Johnson is interesting. He was an average to slightly above average contributor to the secondary, but he brought that veteran presence to a group that really hadn't played together before.
And special teams.
And he was good on special teams. Yep. And he played the slot. That's it. He plays your nickel corner, but he's a big nickel corner. He's a 6 foot, 200-pounder who can play your nickel.
Yeah, he's not Roby Nickel Coleman. That's for damn sure.
Now, he is why we were so good in the run game when teams went 3 wide and ran. Mm-hmm. Because we had Leonard Johnson. Mm-hmm. Now, here's what I'll say about the guy. He's 27 years old and only made $800,000 last year. Yeah. That's one of the most underrated contracts on the whole team.
Yep.
He could be a decent option to re-sign on a team-friendly deal that wouldn't hamper us in terms of meaningful free agent activity.
Yeah, I would be surprised to see him sign for much above the veteran minimum again.
No, I'll tell you.
I think if you can get him at 1.2 for 2 years, so he signs a 2-year, $2.5 million deal, we'll just say, I think he'll be happy with that. Given that he's getting to an age where, you have to start taking as much money as you can, right? Because the ride's going to be over soon.
Well, that's it. EJ Gaines. Now, Gaines is probably the most interesting name in the entire secondary since we're on that topic. Our defense gave up almost 100 fewer yards per game when Gaines was on the field.
Yep.
But that's the problem when trying to establish his value. He missed 6 games this season, and that's been the pattern over the course of his career. He has yet to play a full season of football, being a cornerback in the NFL.
Right, which is the deal with Sammy Watkins made sense, right? Yep. So you had a trash for trash swap. That's what I call that, right? Trash for trash. We did the same thing with Jerry Hughes, as a trash for trash swap. Sometimes it works out. We did the same thing with Thad Lewis. He started a bunch of games.
Thad Lewis actually won us again.
It was a great deal.
Amazing.
It was a great deal. But EJ Gaines, unfortunately, he didn't even make it through his first preseason, like his first training camp without injury.
Yep.
I remember we interviewed him at training camp, and then 2 days later, he's gone.
Now, my thing is, with 6 games, and then you look at the pattern of injury over the course of his career, year over year, he has yet to play a full season. No team is going to pay him market value for well, I shouldn't say that, because you know that some team out there will see the 10 games that he played this season, how well he did, and they'll pay him based on that. But I think that any team lining up to sign him should be wary of those 6 games where he isn't there. Now, I don't know how important, everyone talks about, availability is important. Availability is important. It is. But so is production. And so I don't know where McBean lies on this. I don't know where the coach and the GM lie on EJ Gaines. That's probably the most convoluted situation out of all the guys who are on the roster this year set to be free agents. He's the only one that I'm really confused on.
So EJ Gaines is... Spot Track has him marked out as like $9 million, which I think is ridiculous.
Because you don't play a full season.
Right. That's what I mean.
I'm never going to pay a cornerback who can't play 16 games. Look at Trey White. Trey White got the Macho Man Randy Savage elbow dropped on him by Rob Gronkowski, the biggest hoss in the game. Mm-hmm. Got an elbow dropped on him. Concussed. He was talking shit after the game, and he showed up for the next week's game.
Sure did.
Big win.
So,
guess what? That matters.
Absolutely.
That's a dude who's available.
Yep.
That's a dude who's tough. He I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it, but when I see a guy like EJ Gaines who just gets hurt doing routine things, it's like, Jesus Christ.
But EJ Gaines is in an interesting marketplace. He's different than Preston Brown because Preston Brown could fit in a 3-4 or 4-3 because he played in both. EJ Gaines is really a zone corner. So when you look at teams that are willing to pay money for him, they're not all teams that run primarily zone schemes. So you get Carolina has historically been zone, but McDermott's here. You don't have a lot of teams that play primarily zone. You look at what happened with Josh Norman in Washington. Washington paid all this money, and then they don't use him in zone coverage. So that's what I'm talking about is, Gaines could be a $9 million player. If your team ran primarily zone, you might be worth that investment. But you have, 13 teams, 14 teams in the NFL that might run really primarily zone coverage, like exclusively zone. And of those, how many have $9 million to give to EJ Gaines? I think EJ Gaines is actually very resignable, about $6.5 million, because the market is so thin from primarily zone-based defenses.
See, I just think that we could go into the draft and come out with a better cornerback.
I don't mind EJ Gaines. I don't mind him.
Like I said, the statistic exists. Our defense gives up 100 extra yards of defense when he's not on the field. But having said that, if he costs me $6 million, I don't want him. I don't. I personally don't want him.
Sure.
Now, that's just looking, but that's taking into account our salary cap as it currently stands.
Right.
Now, there are opportunities for us to gain additional cash. Starting at the top, Tyrod Taylor, number 1 with a bullet. He carries a 2018 salary of $18 million, but the Bills can recoup $10 million of that by trading or just releasing him before the start of the league year.
What is it? He's due, $10 million on the third day?
$6 million. $6 million roster bonus.
Day.
So there's a couple actually interesting schools of thought with the theory behind picking up his bonus, right? So I don't want to get stoned in the middle of this kitchen, but I'm going to tell you what those are.
It's a studio.
It's a studio. So if the team picks up his $6 million option, the Bills eat that $6 million. They have to also eat all the money that comes along with trading him, right? But the Bills could then trade him to somebody else. Now, does he have a market value? So the people are saying, pick up his option. You could trade him. Total nonsense. There's no market for Tyrod Taylor. If there was a market for Tyrod Taylor, it would have come out last year.
Tyrod Taylor finished this year. It was week 10. Week 10 or 11. Chris and I were standing in my basement watching the pregame before the Bills game started. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I was half in the bag, so I don't remember which week it was. But it was late. It was like week 10, week 11.
Is this that graphic?
Yes. And the graphic pops up on the TV that since he started in 2015, okay, since he was named a starter in 2015, Tyrod Taylor is the 33rd ranked passer in the NFL.
Yeah.
By average yards per game.
I believe that.
He throws 202. At that point, he was throwing 202 yards per game. That was before his ridiculous performances down the stretch where he threw 94 yards in a game. I'm talking, this is abysmal. There's backup quarterbacks in the NFL who have thrown more yards per game than this guy. I'm sorry. You took a run at it. It's an experiment, and it didn't work. Yes, he got you to the quarterback. And Jesus Christ, he got you to the playoffs. This is my nightmare. Chris, this is my hell.
This is my hell.
Absolutely my hell is picturing the Bills hanging on to Tyrod, specifically because he was the quarterback who was under center when we made the playoffs. It was a team effort. It's not like Tyrod led us there. It's not like Tyrod threw 300 yards a game and multiple touchdowns down the stretch to get us into the playoffs. Absolutely not. In fact, Tyrod lost us the one game we needed to maintain control of our own destiny. And then we had to let Andy Dalton be the guy who came out and had the arm of destiny that threw us into the playoffs. It's incredible to me that we're still having this conversation about Tyrod, but we have to. Mm-hmm. To me, of all the moves that need to be made this offseason, his release or trade seems the most likely.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you on that. Financially, it doesn't make sense to hold on to him. From a production to dollar standpoint, just not there.
No.
And no team is going to want to trade for a guy that everybody knows we're just going to release anyway. Why trade for a $10 million contract when you can get him on a 1-for-4 deal? There's no reason.
That's my point.
There's no trade market for Tyrod Taylor. So you're gonna release him. Yes, it's gonna cost you money. And don't forget, when I'm talking about quarterbacks that we can sign, Drew, I'm thinking how much money it takes to get Tyrod off the roster and how much money it takes to replace him. That's a conglomerate quarterback dollar.
But see, you have to look at it like that.
You do.
And the average fan doesn't. And that's why I'm going to bring up the next guy. Jerry Hughes. There has been, I don't know where it came from, this horseshit movement about trying to get rid of Jerry Hughes. Here's what I'll say. I understand. It's an idea that's been floated around over social media, the internet. Releasing or trading Hughes would result in an extra $5 million in cap space this season. But at the same time, defensive end is already a position of need. It's already so. I mean, don't get me wrong. Eddie Yarbrough, Ryan Davis, as depth options, they did their job this season. They played well until Eddie Yarbrough got that groin injury and he just really wasn't the same. Mm-hmm. Shaq Lawson went to the IR.
Which seems to be a habit.
If Kyle Williams ain't coming back and Jerry Hughes ain't coming back, or you release him or trade him, you're not going to have a whole ton of veteran leadership in that defensive line room.
Well, here's all I care about. The Bills as a whole struggled to generate pressure. We were 29th in sacks. Mm-hmm. 29th. Getting rid of Hughes would only exacerbate that problem. Because you're taking, I get it, okay? I understand. You want to get rid of a guy who seems like he's getting overpaid for what he does. But you understand he's the only threat. So teams just target Jerry Hughes and take him out of a game. We have no pass rushing threat on the other side to balance the line. Now, what I'm looking at is this. When I think about Jerry Hughes, it would exacerbate our problem with pass rush, and pass rushes in free agency are going to cost you more than $5 million a year. Mm-hmm. True or false, Paul?
Totally true. Yep,
so,
absolutely true.
The money you're saving, where is that going? Where is it going?
All right, so
it's useless.
All right, hold on. Let me crack open this beer. So allow me to state that I understand and empathize with your theory on this, and I completely disagree with you. The Bills should cut Jerry Hughes, and here let me explain why. So this is the opposite side of the coin. So Jerry Hughes played his lowest snap count since he was named a starter for the Buffalo Bills. Only played 66.3% of snaps. So the last time he saw that lowest snap count, Manny Lawson was starting in place of Hughes when he was playing outside linebacker. Let's not forget Jerry Hughes played outside linebacker before dropping down to defensive end. That was his first year here, played outside linebacker. Only started one game. It was the New Orleans game where we lost to New Orleans because Kenny Stills burned Jerry Hughes down the sideline. I still see that play in my nightmares. Anyway, I digress. So Hughes' production, of course, is going to go down. He's not going to have the numbers. He was on the field for like 15 to 20% less snaps than he'd ever seen in his Bills career. So the numbers are compromised. I get that. But I think, were you there in the preseason where Jerry Hughes and Leslie Frazier got into that yelling match on the sidelines.
See, I don't care about that.
Were you there? No, that's
No, I wasn't there, but what I'll tell you is this. When it comes to coach fighting player, I want that. I understand what everyone thinks when I say that. What I want is I want to see some guy who wants to be better. I want some guy who thinks things are going wrong one way, another guy who thinks things are going wrong the other way, and they're going to butt heads until they find a way to find a common ground.
Yeah.
I appreciate that because that's how I am. If you don't agree with me, I will fight you until we find a common ground.
We're not going to find a common ground on this one. So when you say that Jerry Hughes didn't have that Jerry Hughes wasn't as effective because there wasn't a pressure on the other side, that's a very valid argument. However, what I saw watching the games was Jerry Hughes following the Aaron Maben path of success, which is I'm going to see how far past the tackle I can get and then circle back to the quarterback.
Why are you doing this to me, Paul?
I'm just pointing it out. And then you go back to the Jacksonville game and and Jerry Hughes had Blake Bortles dead to rights two times. What happened? Swiping for the football, right? Didn't go for the tackle, wanted the big play. And his penalty numbers were down this year, which with Jerry Hughes, you have to talk about his personal foul penalty numbers. Those were down this year because he wasn't on the field as much. So I have a little bit of a problem retaining Jerry Hughes because I don't think he brings the value to the team that you want.
How dare you bring up Aaron Maben in front of me? How dare you? Do you know that the day we draft, you want to talk about your draft experience?
Yeah, we got to go do this podcast out in the backyard now.
How about this? The day that the Bills drafted Aaron Maben, I threw a party with a bunch of my friends at my friend's house. My friend owned the house. I invited a bunch of people over. So there's 20 people plus his, 20 people including his brother and his sister.
It's a family, mom. Right? Okay.
A bunch of people came over because hey, there's a party. Well, come over and we'll hang out.
30 people there.
Everyone's going to enjoy some football. I was doing the Arakpo dance because I was like, Brian Arakpo, he's there. We're going to take him.
Yep.
And when I saw Aaron Maben on the cell phone, I broke one of the kitchen chairs, just shattered.
You're kidding me.
I took another one. I went to the fridge. I used my shirt like a hammock and took 9 beers outside. And I smoked half a pack of Parliament Lights and drank all of those beers alone outside in the backyard until it got dark. And whenever anyone came up to me and tried, we drafted Eric Wood. He seems like he's good. And we got this Jerry's Bird. Get away from me. Get away from me. I was spraying people with beer. I was spitting at people. It was awful. Don't you ever mention Aaron Maben in my presence.
You're like a rabid orangutan at the zoo.
Don't you ever mention Aaron Maben in my presence again. Jerry Hughes, in my opinion, has some value to this team. I think that you don't open a hole unless you know who's going to fill it. That's my point. You don't open a hole unless you know who's going to step into it. We don't have a replacement.
No.
So this is not the year. Even if next year you want to get rid of him, okay, fine. This is not the year.
The difference there, though, Drew, is this team had no problem finding guys to play in positions.
That's fine, but there's no pass rush, and he's the only one who delivered it. Now, moving on to a different position. Flip side of the ball, Cordy Glenn. An under-the-radar play that's kind of been gaining momentum as draft talk starts to ramp up is that the Bills moving on from Cordy Glenn. Now I can understand it. The Bills could shave $3 million off the cap this year and be out from under the rest of his contract, which is $12 million for the next 3 years. But this is where I'll say that the Bills should exercise caution. You're switching schemes. A zone blocking scheme back to a power blocking scheme, similar to what you saw under Rex Ryan. That's what Brian Daboll is. He's Alabama. Roll Tide. What do? They grind people with their rushing attack. Mm-hmm. Yep. You need and they do less zone blocking and more just power blocking. I don't know what it's called. I don't know the fancy word for it, the terminology. Essentially, I'm looking at a left tackle who's proven that he can block as part of the number one rushing offense in football. He was hurt. He missed. Dawkins filled in. But that was a different scheme. It was a different setup. Who's to say that Dawkins can produce that way as a left tackle under a different scheme? That's a gamble that I'm not willing to take.
Yeah,
not if you want to see progression on your offense.
I took an absolute immense amount of flack for saying that Deion Dawkins is not the left tackle of this football team. He's not. I mean, if you're going to look at a quarterback change, the last thing you should be doing is changing a left tackle. And Cordy Glenn hasn't proven ineffective. He's a good player. He's had health issues. Mm-hmm. And I think you roll into next season, and regardless of said health issues, he is the thing that needs to keep your guy safe. You could spend a lot of money. You need to anchor that down.
My thing is, if you were to move Cordy Glenn, I don't care what you get back in draft capital, you're going to be taking a suspect line and making it worse.
Yes.
Coming into a new scheme that you don't know that any of them are going to fit. Mm-hmm. So good luck. It's a complete dice roll.
I completely agree.
I'd rather keep a guy who's proven that he can fit multiple schemes on my roster. Sticking with the offensive line, there's Richie Incognito. Okay?
Who just got cleared from all that bullshit from Jacksonville.
Well, yeah, there was all horseshit to begin with. Okay? There's trash talk that goes on in every single football game. I played football. I've said... Hell, I've said and done things that I don't want repeated, I don't know, in fistfights in parking lots. I've said a lot of regrettable things. The fact is, he had his own teammates vouch for him. Yep. His own teammates went to bat for him. And even other players on Jacksonville's roster were like, well, we didn't really hear him say anything, so we don't have a comment on it.
Right.
But this one player seemed to have a problem with it. Ultimately, Incognito is essentially the elder statesman in the room. Okay? With Kyle gone, if Kyle doesn't come back, you're looking at Wood, you're looking at Incognito, you're looking at...
Shady?
Who else? Shady. Now, he's the most consistent performer on our offensive line. Moving on from him would generate $6 million in cap space.
For a guard.
For a guard.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for a guard.
Yep.
But this should only be considered, in my mind, if the situation is dire. What I think, personally, about Richie is that you extend and restructure. That's my opinion. Because I see Richie as a guy, he's a Pro Bowler. Okay? Multiple Pro Bowler. Do you want to lose him? And if so, who are you replacing him with? Because these upcoming drafts, I'm looking ahead 2-3 years. There are no strong guard candidates.
No.
I would rather extend and then just restructure his contract to spread those cap hits out, because I don't want to see Richie wear another jersey for the rest of his career.
Yeah, so Richie's on the books right now. He's 34. Right? I mean, he's no spring chicken at this point. So, I mean, you could get Richie in probably on another 2 years, right? You could take the $6 million base salary he's set to make right now. You transfer some of that in a signing bonus. That's how a lot of those restructures go.
But it's not a lot of it.
It's not.
Shift it around.
You just move some money around.
Work.
Yeah, you move some money around. You could take about $6 million of that. If you turn about $4 million into a signing bonus, it's going to lower his base salary to about $2 million this year.
Ultimately, he's a guy that we need to keep. Because
I agree with you.
I don't see any replacements on the free market. I don't see any replacements in the draft.
Yeah. And he can fit multiple schemes because he's done so across his career.
That's it.
So I would trust Richie to be in there, but I wouldn't sign him to a deal that extends him past age 36. So I'd give him this year, restructure this year, extend to 35, extend to the contract year of 36. Because by the time you get there, you're probably looking at $2 or $3 million to walk away from him in age 36. I'd take that.
And then probably the worst thing I've heard all fucking week. LaShawn McCoy.
Oh, man, you are not going to like the HashtagSports video on Friday.
Oh, my God, I'll kill both of you. McCoy's been the heart and soul of the Bills' offense since the moment he stepped out the fucking plane here in Buffalo. Year over year, even his late 20s, he has been the most elusive and effective back in the NFL. If not, he's top 3. I mean, he's top 4 for rushing yards and all-purpose yards every single season.
Yeah.
Why is that? Oh, because he's a good running back.
Yeah.
Not just good, he's an elite running back.
He is absolutely elite. There's no doubt about that.
Year over year, yeah, Chris, I don't hear you balking at that. Elite running back. Because he's top 4 every year. Guess what your elite quarterback doesn't do?
Well, just wait.
Year over year, even his late 20s, he's been one of the most elusive, effective backs. He does everything. He does everything you ask him. He runs between the tackles, outside the tackles. He catches in the flat. He catches out in space in the middle of the field. It's incredible. This season, McCoy is slated to account $8.9 million against our salary cap.
Yep.
He is one of the highest paid running backs.
By a margin. Yeah, by $2 million, $2+.
He's the highest paid running back by salary cap percentage in the NFL.
Yes.
Cutting him would result in a net gain on the cap by $3 million. With a draft that's very deep in running back talent, I can understand why people might want to, discuss him as a cap casualty. But me personally, I don't see it. And here's why. When you think about everything he is, everything he's done for this team, the way he's embraced this city, the way that he put us on his back, game after game after game this season.
Indianapolis.
When our offense wasn't doing a fucking thing.
Indy.
Yeah, that game was huge.
Indy.
This is my point. And you hear his comments after the playoff loss, and he goes, I'm not satisfied. I'm not happy. I'm not happy to be here. I'm disappointed I didn't win because I want to win, but I want to win here in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. That's a guy that you as a coach, he has that competitive edge that you can't teach. You want that to infect your younger players. That attitude is infectious. And you need that. So to me personally, I look at it and I say, okay, you draft a running back this year, but you don't let LaShawn McCoy go. What you do is you tandem them both. Next season, now, if you want to have that conversation with me, have it next season when he's making $9 million against our cap, and we would save, what is it? I'm looking at $7 million, and he'll be 31. A 31-year-old running back, and we can save $7 million by cutting him. You want to have the conversation? Bring it up to me next year. If you tweet me now, and if you mention anything that I'm involved in on social media, mark my words, you're going to get a picture of my ass in response. A picture of my ass.
Is it a hairy ass?
Oh, it's an absolutely hairy ass.
That's terrible.
So, guys, that leads us to where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? In-house UFA approach. Are any of these guys resignable? We've already kind of touched on it. I mean, I feel like some of them you might want to keep, but I feel like Bean is really looking to build new. I feel like Bean
he tore it down. He wants to build everything through the draft.
He got all of his draft capital. He didn't do that by mistake. He wants to build a new roster in his own image.
Yeah. So, I mean, the reality is you're not going to be able to do anything with the roster until you tear some pieces out, right? So that's why releasing Hughes and releasing Taylor makes sense because it frees up capital, right, to go sign your mid-level free agents. So you're going to see some of that, right? You're going to see, I mean, the Bills have, 52 guys under contract. So we're not going to see the total overhaul that we saw this last season. So the Bills already have a decent foundation built for what they want to move forward with. To me, they've gotten enough draft picks where you're going to spend about $8.2 million in the draft, and that's fine, right? You're going to spend that money, and that's fine. You get rid of Taylor, you got to replace him. Nate Peterman is not your starting quarterback. You roll into the next season with Nate Peterman as your starting quarterback. That is a terrible option. But the truth is, we're going to see a lot of those lower tier players signed again because it's going to be 2 or 3 years before you get out of the basement of these older contracts expiring. Richie Incognito's contract cycling, Eric Wood's contract cycling. You're going to need to free up money to re-sign Kelvin Benjamin if that's what you want to do. So there's some space that has to be made here. And that's why you might, and I hate to tell you this, the conversation of the Eagles trading Nick Foles, it's real. It is as real gets. Because you can get rid of Tyrod Taylor and save $9 million and trade for Nick Foles and he's only making $6 million. You're saving $3 million at the quarterback position
Jesus.
So if you're Brandon Beane and you're going to be a run first team, you have a batting tee for a quarterback. You don't fucking care who's throwing the football because you're just giving the ball to LaShawn McCoy. Just put the football on the batting tee. McCoy just grab it and go. That's what it is. And you saw what happened in Baltimore when you won a Super Bowl in a quarterback with a contract year. Flacco got paid. And that's what you want to avoid.
And it destroyed their roster.
Them. Yeah, absolutely it did. It destroyed him. So you don't want to be in that position. But that's what I mean. When you hear conversation about Nick Foles, I'm not telling you to dismiss it. You need to seriously consider it as a possibility.
So outside UFAs, do you think that, now here's what I think when it comes to outside free agency. We're going to talk about it in coming weeks. We're going to identify targets that might fit the Bills. But in terms of the cap as a whole and what Beane's approach is going to be, I look at it as, I read his quotes. And I hear him say to guys, hey, this year, we got $31 million in cap space. That's okay. But next year, we're going to be looking real good. That tells me that he's already looking ahead a year in free agency.
Right. Yep.
Which says that he's not spending this year.
Nope.
He's going to go, hey, we made the playoffs with a bargain roster. Because our coach somehow got these guys to buy in, and somebody maybe somewhere on the coaching staff was forced to sell their soul to the devil to get that pass to go off the way it did.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Ultimately, we were in the conversation. We found a way to slip through the cracks. We made the postseason. Now, they have to build off that. The Bills' PR office put out the trope at the beginning of the year last year. That was their branding. It starts with one.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? They got their one. It starts with one playoff appearance.
Yep.
Now what can you do with it?
I mean, you have some guys coming off. If you're looking down the road, you have some guys coming off contract. Lorenzo Alexander's not going to be there anymore. Charles Clay, you can walk away from him. McCoy, you could even walk away from him. Benjamin's not on the books for the following season. And you're continually seeing the salary cap increase, right? So with that being said, this draft is the most important draft in Bills history because you have a very aging offensive line. You need to start replacing those guys, right? That's why Ryan Groy, you'd mentioned it earlier, when we talked about Mike Gillislee. Gillislee wasn't tendered at a second round because Ryan Groy was too important to not tender at a second round.
Exactly. He's important to the future of this football team.
Exactly. And that's when you're going to start seeing the cycle. If you see Eric Wood start losing snaps to Ryan Groy, don't be surprised. It's part of a youth movement, and it's going to be something that you're going to see throughout the course of this year. They are going to try and get younger, and the easiest way to do that is obviously through the draft and to start cycling out some of these incumbent players because there's not many of them left.
No. Guys, thank you so much for showing up tonight and listening to the podcast. Thank you for wading through all of the numbers and the nonsense with Paul and I. Listen, I get off to this stuff. This is fantastic to me. Paul masturbates to it. He really does. I shouldn't say that. But I did.
But you did.
So, Paul, tell me, where can we find the Sunday Drive?
So Sunday Drive's up on YouTube, #sports. You can catch, of course, any of the content on HashtagSports.com. Follow the Twitter handle, HashtagSports. So the whole idea is to get deliverable content, all the time and just kind of that fun, interesting take on sports. To be a partner with you guys is always a riot. So thank you again. I always appreciate it. For those of you unaware, Drew and I are in a group chat on Facebook that is literally nonstop every day, and it is marvelous. I would never want my employer to see anything I've said in there.
No one would. Listen, I've said some things that are unforgivable.
That's true.
And not just from an employer status, but just from a societal standpoint. What I'll say is this. We love to talk about football. Paul here gets in a car with his buddy, and they talk football. That's it. That's what they do.
Yep.
Now tell them the website where they can find it.
Yeah, HashtagSports.com, and of course you can always find it on YouTube.
And what's your Twitter handle?
HashtagSports. So it's all underneath HashtagSports.
Fantastic. Guys, now, coming up this week, cover1.net. Also on GrandstandSportsNetwork.com. Erik Turner from Cover One is going to be reporting live from the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, he's on his way there right now.
Really? Literally as we speak.
Right now.
He's got credentials. He's on his way. It's going to be fantastic. If you want Senior Bowl coverage, go to cover1.net. Go to grandstandsportsnetwork.com. You're going to get some of the best coverage you're going to see from the Senior Bowl. I mean, like I said, hand measurements, they make me want to shoot myself in the face. But having said that, you should tune in and at least cover Erik's stuff. Because Erik writes well. He breaks it down for the layman so that everyone can kind of understand what's going on. And also, Rock Sports Network, 2017 season recap show. It's happening this Saturday, 1 p.m. at 34 Rush at Batavia Downs Casino. Anybody who wants to show up, hey, show up. We'll drink a beer with you. You can meet Chris. You can meet
I'll be there. I'll be there in blue dress pants.
Oh my God, your blue dress pants! It's unbelievable. No one should wear them. Ultimately, Rock Sports Network, they're going to put this on. Now, it's going to be featuring the hosts of the Huddle TV show on Rock Sports Network, Ryan Lasel and Icy Vic, and also Spencer German from Rock Sports Report, Nick Wooten from BuffaloBillsBeat.com, and Ashley Petty, USA Today's Bills Wire. And, of course, they invited me to pretty up the crowd because, you know, I mean, look at me. I'm gorgeous.
Dude, if you smile, it's a fucking train wreck.
Folks, we got to go. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. That's Paul Wanecski. And this has been the Rockpile Report.